What's up, everybody? It's Draymond Green. Make sure you subscribe to the Volumes YouTube channel below so you don't miss any more of this great content going forward. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Draymond Green Show. We are live on AMP, and it is post-Game 7. And you have the Boston Celtics losing to the Miami Heat at home. Miami headed to the NBA Finals. Congratulations to the Miami Heat and the Denver Nuggets. Two teams headed to the NBA Finals. Denver Nuggets have had an incredible season. Miami Heat has had an up-and-down season. But when it all said and done, it does not matter except for what you do at the end. Boston Celtics had an incredible season, but when it's all said and done, does not matter because of what you did at the end. And quite frankly, before we get into all of this, we will talk the game. We'll talk a little final stuff. But I must say, it did not hurt me to watch the Boston Celtics fans suffer. Those people were really rude to me last year, and I like to see them suffer. Quite frankly, when I was sitting there watching the game, I was just sitting there like, wow. Like the last 4 or 5 minutes, you up 18 points, and I was just sitting there like, man, like that feels so good. Like, because you got to think, when you're up 18 points, 19 points, 21 points, 23 points, with 4 minutes to go, like you're just counting down the clock, like to get to the end of the game. And it's like every rebound you get, like every shot they miss, like it just feels good. And so as I'm sitting there watching that, I'm like, wow, that feels amazing. Like I know it feels amazing. Like it has. And it does. And quite frankly, for the second year in a row, in a big closeout game, the Boston fans suffered. Now, as you all know, we always talk about this. We have a Boston fan who puts this show together. Like, yes, I come on here. Yes, I talk. Yes, I do my thing. But the guy behind it, like making the magic really happen, is Jackson. And Jackson, as you all know, is a Boston Celtics fan. And Jackson, as you all could guess right now, is heartbroken. And he's heartbroken because the Boston Celtics are who we thought they were. They got to the moment and they did not look like they were ready for the moment. All of a sudden, all the shots were short again. All of a sudden, they looked like they couldn't play basketball with their left hand again. All of a sudden, they looked like exactly who we thought they were. Now, quite frankly, the first thing I said, and you can imagine what I said, right? Like I'm watching and I'm like, wow, they look like it's game 1 of the regular season. Wow. They look like they looked in the closeout game last year. Wow. And so you have to, like, you start to question, like, does that become your MO, right? Like, when it gets tough, what do? And so let's think about this. Like, if you think back through the series, in every game that mattered, and now when I say mattered, I mean mattered for them, like where the pressure was on them, like they were supposed to win, they actually lost. Except game 6, right? Like game 6 mattered. Game 6, they had to win. Not sure what the odds are as far as Vegas goes, but they went and won it. Like they had to win. But if you think about like game 1, they were supposed to win, they lost. Game 2, Boston was supposed to win, they lost. Game 3, you're like, all right, they went down 0-2. They lost 0-2. They're down 0-2, lost 2 games at home. So game 3, they're going to win, right? They have to win. They lost. Game 4, you down 0-3. You got a free swing at it because you're supposed to lose then. You're supposed to get swept. You're down 0-3 on the road. They won. But it's actually a game they're supposed to lose, so it's no pressure. Then you go back home in game 5 and yeah, you're supposed to win, but you're still down 3-1, so it wins. Now, game 6 is tough, right? Like, you're going in game 6, but you're rolling off the high of winning the last 2 games. But you're going into game 6 and you're like, all right. And quite frankly, we haven't talked about this, but they won on like a garbage buzzer beater at the last second. Give it Derek White credit. Like, he made the play. That's how it happened. That's how the cookie crumbles sometimes. But like, they gave that game away. Up 10 with 3 minutes to go. Here, Miami, take it. They gift wrapped Miami the game. Derek White, Marcus Smart had a good look too, by the way, rattled in and out. And, good fortune, Derek White got the tip in. So you give him his credit. He also showed up tonight, by the way. He was one of the few that showed up tonight. Definitely give him his credit on tonight as well. But they actually should have lost game 6. But I'm not one of woulda, coulda, shouldas. You win, you lose, you lose. Ain't no woulda, coulda, shoulda. We all would have if we could have, don't matter. So they actually, however, should have lost game 6, but they didn't. So you get it back home to game 7, and what does everybody say? They're going back home. Miami lost game 6. It is over. I text I text a friend earlier, and I told a friend earlier, it would not shock me if Boston go out here and choke, because they're going to go back home. They're going to feel like, oh man, we home, and they're going to feel like they won already. Like, when I saw, if I'm on Miami's team and I saw the way they were celebrating and the things they were doing after game 6, I'm immediately showing this to my teammates. Like, yo, look at these dudes. Like, they think they already won something. Like, let's go smack them. Because they already won. Look at them. Look at their body language. So if they think they won already, we go smack them, catch them off guard, they're toast. And so I was telling a friend earlier, I'm like, yo, I think Miami going to win because Boston going to go back home and relax. Because, let's face it, that's the type of things that Boston has done over the last couple years. And so it does become your MO. Now, let's get into the game and what actually happened. Number one, JT rolled his ankle on the first play. I get all of that. But if you stay in the game, you stayed in the game. And JT's not the type of guy that's going to make an excuse for that. So I'm not saying he's going to make an excuse. Boston Celtics fan will make excuses. And I ain't hearing none of that shit because y'all rude, and I'm happy y'all lost. Boston Celtics fan, not happy JT lost, but Boston Celtics fans, especially those of you that are in that arena, I'm happy y'all lost. Because, stop being who you are. Stop being who you are. I've heard that before. But you know what I mean. Stop being the way that y'all are. At some point, you just can't be that way. So stop doing that. And you know what that is. I don't need to go into that. But anyway, so we know JT rolled his ankle on the first play. Didn't have a good game. Wasn't quite aggressive. Was gimpy the entire game. Jaylen Brown struggled. 6 for 22 from the field, 8 turnovers. In a game where Jayson Tatum's beat up, you needed a better game from Jaylen Brown. You didn't get that. But I'm going to tell you, and this isn't a Jaylen Brown thing. This is just, I told you all before, stop with it's game 7, it's over. Game 7 is game 7. And game 7 brings out some of the worst in people. And I knew it would be a very tough night for the Celtics when Al Horford shot that 3 from the right corner and it hit the other side, bottom cushion of the backboard. That's hard to do. And what things like that say to me, when you see things like that, is yo, getting a little tight. Like, all of a sudden, that shot ain't that easy anymore. Why? Because it's game 7. The lights are different. They're a little brighter. There's a few more eyes on the situation. It's a national holiday. Bunch of eyes on the situation. And when he shot that ball from the corner and that thing hit the other side of the backboard cushion, it ain't even like skin the other side of it. It hit like, that's a boom, like that's that type of brick. When that happened, I said, oh, these boys are tight. So I thought Boston got really tight in the situation, and I was not shocked. I wasn't surprised because I've seen that in a situation before. Up close and personal, firsthand, in the Garden. I've seen that very thing. So I was not surprised. But in saying that, let's talked about Jaylen. Jaylen had a tough game. Caleb Martin averaged 19 on 60% shooting and 49% from 3. Now, listen, I'm never mad at Jimmy Butler winning the conference finals MVP because Jimmy Butler is like Jimmy Butler. And quite frankly, none of this goes without Jimmy Butler. The Miami Heat, none of that works without Jimmy. Jimmy actually finished with 28, 6, and 7. Had a much better game today than he's had the past 3. And, Jimmy is their guy. We know that. Never taking anything away from Jimmy. Congrats to him on the award. I personally, if I had a vote, I personally was voting for Caleb Martin for MVP. I think he was extremely consistent across the board. I think he was really good across the board. And also, a part of me is Jimmy Butler carries this team, right? They've been to the conference finals, 3 out of the last 4 years. So the thought is always that they'll get back there. And my thought with them always getting back there is Jimmy Butler's going to have another opportunity. Who's to say Caleb Martin will probably never have another opportunity to win an MVP award like that? And quite frankly, he earned it. Again, first, he earned if he won. I'm not saying Jimmy shouldn't have won, so let's not do that here. I don't roll like that, not hating on anything. But he earned the right to be in that conversation. And so for me, he would have had my vote. And quite frankly, I know the type of guy that Jimmy Butler is. Jimmy actually probably would have preferred Caleb Martin to get the MVP. That's just how Jimmy is. Jimmy don't want to play in all-star games. Jimmy, he just don't get off on all of that stuff. He don't. That's just not the type of stuff that, it just doesn't get Jimmy off. Jimmy wants to win and all of that. And play well, obviously great. But he don't get off on all that stuff. And I know the type of person he is and the type of teammate that Jimmy is. I think he would have actually preferred to see Caleb, one of his young fellas who he's brought up. I'm sure he would have preferred to see him win that award. I personally thought he deserved it. Again, not that he's just over Jimmy, but he played incredible. Average 19. Miami's adjustment was to insert him into the starting lineup. He continued that production, actually upped that production, having 21 in Game 6 and 26 tonight in Game 7. Do you know how hard it is for a Caleb Martin to go out and get 26 in Game 7? It's not easy to show up in Game 7. We saw that. We see that and saw that from the other perspective. And what he's done the entire series. He's been the X factor the entire series. Defending. He hit JT with a couple moves a day. I'm like, yo, he's JT. He hit the one where he went baseline, came out, other side, right before the third expired. Caleb Martin looked really good. So I don't want to take nothing from Jimmy away. Take anything away from Jimmy to give Caleb Martin his flowers. But Caleb Martin deserves his flowers. Showing up, stepping up to the challenge. the way that he did defensively, offensively, type of guy he is. He's guarding JT. He's guarding Jaylen Brown. Like, so he's not only doing it on the offensive end, he's doing it on the defensive end too. Oh, and by the way, I think 2 of the games this series, he had double-doubles. So he's also rebounding the basketball. And so, very impressed with Caleb Martin's game, to see him continue to play the way he's played. Duncan Robinson has shown up. Duncan Robinson is playing well. And I thought that was huge for them. Duncan Robinson had more layups this series than he probably had all year. I can vividly remember Duncan Robinson having 8 layups this series, and I'm sure he had more. Like, I can vividly remember 8. Duncan Robinson was incredible. Now, if you are the Celtics, what do you do next year? That's going to be the big question, right? The big question is going to be, oh man, do you give Jaylen the extension that he's eligible for? What do you do with that? Do you trade Jaylen? Do you trade Smart? What do you do? Quite frankly, I'm not one of like just making like these decisions just because something don't go right, because quite frankly, it takes time to build a championship team. And what's this? JT's 5th year? 6th year for JT, 7th year for Jaylen Brown. Building a championship ain't easy. We won our first championship in Steph's 5th year. But, like, do that really happen? LeBron won his first championship in year 8, 9, year 9. Michael Jordan won his first championship in year 8, 7 or 8. It takes time to win a championship. With these guys, I personally do all I can to try to keep it together. Now, you got the new rules coming into place, second apron and all of that stuff. So those decisions will be, that will factor into decisions. So you got the new rules coming into place. But I think when you find some guys that you can get there with, which they have, then you have to find pieces that you can get it done with. So you found guys that you can get there with. Now find pieces that's going to help you get it done. And by the way, that may be a leader. Like, that can be so many different things. It can be a couple role players. Otto Porter, like Gary Payton, Nemanja Bjelica, Juan Toscano Anderson, Damian Lee. Like, you're finding pieces that's helping you propel you. So I'm not one to just jump off a bandwagon and be like, oh, no, you break it up. Because do you know how hard it is to put that back together and then actually get there again? It's a very hard thing to do, which is why most people don't get there, let alone win it. So I am not one that's always on that bandwagon. I've heard people like, oh, they need leadership, they don't have a leader. And quite frankly, here's the thing that I say to those people. Or they'll say, like, because they don't listen to Al Horford. And I tell people, I actually think they do have a leader in Al Horford. I actually think they do listen to Al Horford. However, I think they get to a certain point to where Al Horford can no longer say, like, a part of leading is also like speaking from experience, like experiencing things and knowing what to draw from to get through that situation. And Al Horford has the same finals experiences that all of those guys have. So you get to a certain point and, like, if you don't have anything to draw from, then either your guys don't necessarily feel it when you're speaking that, like, from that perspective, or they see through it, right? Like, and so I don't think Al Horford's not a leader, or I don't think they don't listen to Al Horford. They get to a certain point and, like, that's where Al's experience stops. So if that's where his experience stops, then where do you draw from there? And so I think it's more that than they don't have a leader. But like I said, you figure it out through pieces. You don't figure it out by abandoning everything that you've had. I just don't think that's the way to go. What's up, everybody? It's Draymond Green. Make sure you subscribe to the Volumes YouTube channel below so you don't miss any more of this great content going forward.